been a little while since we've done a transfer news video. We've had so much going on at West Ham, all the dramas behind the scenes with the Declan Rice, with all these things going on. And it's been such a weird summer so far because effectively all of these things, we've had the obviously director of football, the technical director, I will get that right eventually, and Tim Steidten coming in, all these things happening that have kind of sort of delayed us and stopped us doing what we wanted to do this transfer window, which is actually go and buy players and improve the squad. It feels like we've not been able to do that. However, that is all about to change, of course. Tim Steidten's now in his role. He's been here for a couple of weeks and he's been working and with the manager and with Mark Noble and etc. So that's all in place. Declan Rice has now left the football club. We've got the money in the bank. £100 million plus to spend this summer effectively in terms of who we could bring in as a long-term periods. I've talked about it in the previous video regarding the 100, so just go back to I'm not going to keep talking about it. No more excuses from West Ham now. There's no more excuses. Everything's ready. We're primed and ready to go. It's time now to go and improve our squad, and I'm very confident we will. So, first of all, ExWHUEmployee on Patreon. So what those I picked out some pieces of news. There are other names in that. If you haven't seen it or you're not a subscriber to Patreon, then please do go and check it out. It's patreon.com/the West Ham Way. It's only £5 a month. And I'll tell you what, it's really good. Really, well worth it. So if you haven't done so already, just go and check it out. And as you say, if you go to it, it's not your cup of tea, you can just cancel your subscription. It's not like you've got to sign up for a year and that's it, you commit to it. It's literally £5 a month and it's less than a pint, isn't it? So there you go. I'm going to talk about a couple of names on here. The previous video I did yesterday, that was regarding Edson Alvarez. So I'm not going to talk about that again, but so the situation as I record this hasn't changed. But that is a name now that I think has come to the forefront. That looks as though it's a bid is going to be made. And it's an exciting one. I'm personally very excited by Edson Alvarez. I think he looks a very good player and kind of exactly what we need, I think, in terms of a Rice replacement. He is a defensive midfielder. He's tall, strong. I think he's good on the ball. He gets stuck in. I think he's a good player. I really do. But, let's wait and see. But I think it's something to be excited about. The other name is we've reported about quite a fair bit over the transfer window is Dennis Zakaria. So, again, I think this is something that's got some legs in it. I do think West Ham and Juventus have been negotiating this for quite a while, and it looks like West Ham are going to make some sort of formal offer, or possibly have done already. ExWHUEmployee's updates is pretty much exactly what he's been saying for a long time. That West Ham do not want to spend an outlay to get him permanently now because there's concerns over his injury record. So Juventus are very much in the mindset we want to sell because regarding financial fair play, by the way, that's why they need to sell their players because they want to go and invest. Much like a lot of clubs are, they're having to offload before they can do things. It's a strict rule now, and I think clubs like, you've seen what's happened at Man City, you've seen other clubs that have kind of bent the rules a bit and gone, yeah, it'll be fine, and realising actually you do need to stick to the rules. So West Ham are doing the right thing. Juventus are doing the right thing. They're a club that, we've seen that they're a club that's always sort of seemed to be have a lot of turmoil in regards to sticking to rules and things. But so I'm sure they've got to be very, very careful. And that's what they're doing. So that's the reason why they want to sell Zakaria. But West Ham I think that what X has reported basically is that the situation with West Ham is that West Ham want a loan with an obligation to buy. So, if he comes on West Ham for a loan for a season, he's got to make at least, say, 25 appearances across the season, and then we'll have to buy him, which I think makes sense. I think that does make sense. I think West Ham needs to be careful. You don't want to be getting a player that's got an injury record. And unfortunately with Zakaria, he is a player with an injury record. He's 26. He's already had quite a few serious injuries. That's worrying, and especially for West Ham. How many times have we gone down the route of going, give him a go, and it's always backfired. So I am very cautious when it comes to this player. But I'd certainly take the loan with an obligation to buy it, as I say, depending on appearances, which I think that's the route it's going down. It appears that's going to be the outcome of it. But let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. But it's a very, very interesting one. But Alvarez, for me, I think we're going to see some movement in that quite significantly, within the coming days. Another player that we talked about previously, and I'm an admirer of. I know some aren't. It divides opinion, this player, but James Ward-Prowse of Southampton. There's obviously a big interest from West Ham. David Moyes raves about him, wants to bring him for West Ham for his set pieces, for his delivery, free kicks, and his leadership. I really rate James Ward-Prowse. He's a good player. I think he's 28 at the moment. I think he's 29 in December, something like that. Might be wrong, but someone can check that out for me. But I believe, yeah, look, it's not a really young, exciting signing, but I think it's exactly probably what we need at the moment. I think he'd come in with a level head, he's experienced, and I think he'd be good. So the situation is that Southampton are sort of valuing him around £40 million. I think West Ham are going to go in, I think, for 25, which I think is fair. 40 million is a lot for that. The fact they've been relegated, I think that Southampton will cut up. They're going to inflate the prices because that's what people do. It's quite common practice. And unfortunately, because of the Rice sale, it appears that a lot of clubs are doing it because it's West Ham, thinking, well, they've got money now, they can spend, we'll ramp it up a bit. And we just got to stick to our guns. They need to sell him anyway, because he's not going to stay in the Championship. And West Ham need to take advantage of it. He's a good player, in my opinion. But what X did bring up in this, and it's quite interesting because I've spoken to him previously about this, and he has actually mentioned it as well on a podcast, is that while West Ham are looking at James Ward-Prowse and do like him, blah, 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 another player that has been brought up, X actually worded himself as, I would not be surprised at all if West Ham make a formal move for, is Scott McTominay of Manchester United. Again, another one that seems to divide a lot of opinion. I personally really rate him. I really do. I think he's a good player. I mean, you don't play at Man United your whole career. Okay, he might not have been a star for Man United, but he's been a key player for them over the years. You don't play at that level, at that size club, and be bang average and poor. I think he's a good player. You've got to remember that, I think sometimes we forget sometimes the golf in these clubs. I'm not saying we're, Man United are beyond us and we can't, how can we ever catch up with them? And no, I'm not saying that. But they're a talented squad of players. If a player's been playing for Manchester United for his career, like McTominay has, and kept that role and still been a player that, they don't really want to offload, but I think it's getting to the point of his career now where he wants to just play regularly and be a first-team player. I don't think West Ham can turn their nose up at that and act like we're too good. I really don't. I do really rate him. And bearing in mind how good he has been for Scotland, I think he's their main player. So, personally, I think it'd be a clever move for West Ham, McTominay. Really would be. So that's the one to look out for. It looks like West Ham are going to make a move for him because Ten Hag bowl accounts. Well, it looks like Man United, because of this sale, the ever-ending sale of that football club that never ever seems to be coming to an end. I mean, gosh almighty. I mean, Manchester United fans must be putting their hair out with this because it just feels like it's never ending, doesn't it? This sale of that club, which is interesting because we have talked about it before in another video how it might affect West Ham in the future in terms of ownership. But we'll talk about that another day. But McTominay, I think, would be a very good signing for West Ham. I really do. I'm very excited by that one. Another Manchester United player as well has come up is Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire, again, was in X's update that West Ham are looking to explore a loan deal for the player, possibly again with an obligation to buy. The problem is with Maguire is the wage situation. That's the only problem when you pick these players up from these top clubs is they just pay so high. So it's the players effectively have to take a pay cut to come down because we can't pay him 200 grand a week, assuming that's what he's on. It might not be that, it might be a bit less, but it might just break our wage structure, and we don't want to be doing that. But Maguire on loan, again, it's the same thing. It divides opinion. Harry Maguire, if you think back to his time at Leicester, he was an outstanding defender for them. Hence why Manchester United came in and spent big to get him. He is a very good player. It's another situation where you don't want to keep turning your nose up at these players. I know I keep repeating myself, but I don't know. I just get the feeling that if we were to get a player like that, would I be disappointed? No, I really wouldn't. I think he'd be a decent addition to our squad. Is he the right player? I don't know. I'm not sure. I do want younger players at the club, but I do think you need experience as well. All I'm saying is I think we've got to keep an open mind. As I say, we had the situation with Dawson, and it turned out, look how well that turned out for our club. So I certainly wouldn't be, as I say, turning my nose up at Maguire. However, but there is big interest from Jonathan Tah of Bayer Leverkusen. Now, this is a really interesting one because Bayer Leverkusen, of course, have the Steidten link. So Steidten, big admirer of the player, and that's something a name that continually comes up. So it looks like West Ham will explore that avenue as well. I really do think that these next few days, let's say the next week or two, is going to be a really busy and exciting time for West Ham. I can see strong bids now going out for key players that we've been talking about for quite some time. And one area I wanted to talk about as well in this update, Vex, and something we haven't really covered and not talked about a lot, is the striker situation at West Ham. Because let's be honest, the Scamacca situation hasn't been ideal. We don't know where he stands. Is he really happy? Is he going to be here? We just don't really know. It looks as though at this stage he's going to be playing for West Ham this season, after this summer. But there are doubts. There are lingering doubts. But let's just assume we are going to be keeping Scamacca. And there is the question mark over Antonio and his happiness and where he fits in with all of this. I don't know. But so we wanted to get an update actually on the striker situation. And X has provided and actually has dropped a name that West Ham are now looking at. And it's Habib Diallo, who is 28 years old, 20 goals last season in the French league. But we'd have to battle Brentford for his signature. It looks like that they want to get him in as cover for next season because, well, not so much cover. They want to bring him in. But obviously, they've lost a striker, haven't they? And Ivan Toney is not going to be back until sort of midway through next season. I think even the tail end of next season. So that's kind of, I know it sounds ridiculous, but you kind of think if Brentford are really, really keen on him and making moves to sign him, and we're going to have to do battle with Brentford, well, the fact that we know how good Brentford are at their recruitment, that gives me a bit of hope. And the fact he's going to be that they eye him as the player to step in and do the role that Toney offers Brentford, that gives me more encouragement that we're actually going for the right player here, the sort of striker that we need. And if you look at his goal record, it looks very good. He's, the last few years, he scores double figures every season. And that's exactly what we want. As I said, 20 last season. So Diallo is one that West Ham are keen on. So I know I'm sort of jumping around here a little bit, just rattling off names. But that's basically what the update we've got from X. Now, as I've said, there is more names in there. If you're not a patron, go and check it out. It's really worth it. And I'm excited. This is a huge time for West Ham now. No more dwelling, no more worrying about Rice, no more talking about that anymore. Let's look forward. Let's get excited about the new season. Let's get excited about the summer because this is going to be an exciting few weeks. I really do. And it's one that West Ham just have to get right.